Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino. And today, my guest, her name is Virginia Muzquiz, known as the Referral Diva, is founder of the Master Connectors and global recognized expert in business networking and referral-based marketing. With over 2 decades of experience in helping coaches, consultants, and sales professionals scale their businesses, Virginia has mastered the art and science of building profitable networks. Through her proprietary referral on demand system that empowers hard conquer entrepreneurs to create consistent six-figure revenue streams without relying on complicated tech or paid traffic. Virginia is a sought after speaker, podcast host, a mentor who believes in the transformative power of authentic human connection. Her work has helped thousands of professionals overcome networking frustrations, build high quality partnerships, and achieve their business goals with joy and purpose. When she's not helping others create meaningful connections, you can find Virginia inspiring audiences on her business referral podcast or leading impactful networking events. Virginia, it's such a great pleasure to have you here. How are you today?
I'm great, Cesar. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, definitely. So, I always like to begin with this question. I believe that we all have a story. We all have a journey that
Yeah.
regardless of your age, right? You come to this point because of your initiation, your journey. So, tell me about your upbringing and where are you originally from?
So I was born in Amityville, New York, and my mother jokingly said that I was the horror, like after that movie came out.
Yeah,
Lived there for a couple of years. My dad moved us to farmland in New Jersey so he could open up his own business. And his thought process was, well, I bought a roof and put it over their head. There are deer and pheasant and fruit trees and the ability to create a garden, so they'll always have something to eat, and I'll make this happen. So I grew up with a brave entrepreneurial curmudgeonly dad
got it.
who
Yeah.
started an information data processing business in 1968 that fed our family and 2 dozen other families for decades. He's 96 years old. He's not working anymore. Closed
Wow.
the business down years ago, but but I grew up really seeing what entrepreneurs can do for their families, for their employees, and most importantly, for the communities that they live in. And I'm a free spirit, always have been, love doing things my own way, and I'm fundamentally unemployable. So,
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that. So let me
um,
ask you this. Obviously, you grew up in that environment. You saw that. You saw what your dad was doing. Is that something that you said, you know what? The reason why I ask is we always have the idea, right? I mean, in this society, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, hey, let me get a good education. Let me go to school and kind of,
mhm.
find a good job, right? Was that part of your game plan, or did you actually do that too? So how did that all unfold for you?
Yeah. So, Caesar, I didn't have a game plan. My daddy had a game plan.
I got you. Okay.
My daddy had a game plan, and I did daddy's game plan. That was
Yeah,
how that worked, right?
got
So
you.
I graduated top of my class in high school. He paid cash for me to go to an Ivy League school. Wanted me to go into information sciences. I did not like that at all, so I
Mm.
became a Spanish major,
Yeah, gotcha.
as and then I graduated from Dartmouth College in 1987, summa cum laude. Got a
Mm.
job teaching in an all boys boarding academy for a bunch of years. That got old. Went to St. Louis, got my did my doctoral studies at Washington University. Um, right around the time that I was going to write the dissertation, submit the dissertation, I got pregnant with my second child, and I thought, I don't actually want to be a professor.
Yeah.
Like I don't, because the track was so prescribed. It was like, okay, you'd be at this, you would pick up your family and move and be somewhere for 6 or 7 years. They would deny you tenure because nobody ever gets tenure on their first try. So then 7 years would go by and you'd have to go to another school and spend 7 years there. And that's a 50-50 crapshoot. So I was like, man, I could move my family 3 times during this period. And in order to have my family do that, I really felt like I needed to have an inbred, innate passion. Like
Mhm.
it was a
Like, yeah, yeah, I
calling, and
really want this. Yeah.
then I could obligate my family to do it. Right.
Right.
But I didn't like the people I was working with. Honestly, Caesar, my PhD is in literature.
Okay.
And so my job was to psychoanalyze fictional characters and discuss my findings in committee. And I was like, do you people really think you're doing something worthy? I mean,
Yeah.
who cares if Jane Eyre's a lesbian? Like, I don't care. Like,
Right.
there are real people with real problems in the world that need solving. And so my call really at that time was to be a mom. And so I stayed home and then I got really bored being a mom because 2-year-olds don't have rousing intellectual conversations. A friend of mine started her Mary Kay business, and if I signed up and she signed up, Julie was going to win a car. So
Yep.
far be it from me to have Julie stuck riding to work on a bicycle. And I became a top Mary Kay sales consultant.
Wow.
It was all good till it wasn't. So one of the best podcast episodes I've ever recorded as a guest is called "My Direct Sales Epic Fail: What Not to Do If You Want to Succeed in Network Marketing."
Gotcha.
Because
Okay.
I did
Yeah.
it all wrong.
Yeah.
Then I worked for a Sylvan Learning Center for 7 years during No Child Left Behind. And that was when I really got my teeth sunk into entrepreneurship and business. The guy who owned it, he's still my mentor and my friend 20 years later.
Nice.
The very first thing I said to him was, I am fundamentally unemployable. What you need to do is give me the book, just tell me what to do, tell me what the results are, and stay out of my hair, and I will get you the results that you want. But if you micromanage me, I'm not going to survive.
Right.
And so that opportunity was amazing. At the end of the 5th year, we did $2.5 million in revenue. Um, we served 2,500 clients in the urban
Yeah.
environment and helped them get amazing gains in their reading and their math. And I had taught 10 people how to use other people's influence to get them to refer us our ideal clientele. And so once I had taught 10 people how to do it, the owners of the local Business Network International franchise that I had become friends with over the years said, hey, can you teach our members how to do that? I
Mm.
said, yeah, but you'd need to pay me $100,000 to write the curriculum.
Yeah.
She said, what if we bought a business that already has a curriculum? So we bought a referral marketing training franchise, did that for 5 years, bought the BNI franchises, and then opened up my own private consultancy
Yeah.
in 2017. So that's kind of the
Yeah,
long
I
trajectory
love
of
that,
it.
and you know, you said a couple of things that I think are very good conversations and good dialogue for people to kind of get a good grasp and understanding. You know, you said something about your daddy had a game plan for you. You didn't have one for yourself, right? And
Yep.
oftentimes, you know, because a lot of the people that are in our society, you know, especially you know, coming out of high school, going to college, and things like that, and even some
Hmm.
people that are a little bit later in their journey or in their career, they're still following somebody else's game plan, not
Yep.
necessarily your plan, right? And so I think that's critical to understand and further evaluate and say, okay, at which point or how did I step away from that and start looking at what is it that I need or want for myself, for
Right.
my life. Because at the end of the day, yes, it's good to, I believe it's good to support those that love you and your family and all that stuff, right? Except again, at the end of the day, it is you who you need to take care of yourself, right? And so, how
Yeah.
do you? What will be your message, right? You went through that, obviously.
Hmm.
What will be your message for those that might be stuck in or say, I'm afraid to go against my parents' you know beliefs or wants for me or society for that matter, because we are
Yeah.
driven by society so much.
So there are a couple of things that I would say to that. There are reasons to go to university. You want to be a lawyer? Go to university. You want to be a physician? Go to university. Want to be an engineer? Go to university. But if you want to be in sales, if you want to be in service, if you want to be a massage therapist, if you want to be a mechanic, if electronics, like my son-in-law went to Vatterott College for 2 years and has a $170,000 a year job working in robotics. He didn't go to a traditional university for that. So what I would say is this, sooner or later, you will make your own way or you will make your own misery.
Mm.
And so at some point, you're going to have that confrontational moment. You know, the day I told my dad that I wasn't going to finish my PhD, I was going to sell lipstick. Like,
Right. Yeah.
that was a conversation to be had, and where it all boiled down was I edified my mom and I said, Mom was a stay-at-home mom. Mom lived for us. And my brother and I turned out really well. And
Hmm.
they turned out really well because you did you and mom helped us. Mom was there for us. And so I want to be that for my kids right now. And then the selling lipstick, I was like, why not? It's some of the network marketing, some of the best business education that you can get. It's a really great entry level way to learn how to do those things, selling and prospecting and the essentials of things that you need to do when you get into business. The other thing I can tell you is my girls, we had the same game plan my dad had for me, for them, right? My husband and I were really big believers, like they should go to college, they should get a degree. Well, um, they equipped themselves differently
Mm.
in that we taught them every time it was their birthday, they had to do like an annual review. Like, what did you learn last year? What is your performance improvement plan? What's your PIP for the coming year? And how much money do you think you should be making for the chores that you do? And we asked them, what bill do you want to pay? So both of my girls, like every year, would take on one of their bills as a responsibility. By the time my oldest was 21, she was like, hey, I have any other bills that I need to be responsible for before I move out? And I was like, your rent. And she's like, got it. But she got all of her savvy and everything on the job working at a Panera and used it. I said an hourly job is an education you get paid to take. So if
Hmm.
you're making minimum wage, you should be learning. You should be learning how that business runs. You should be learning how inventory is handled. You should be learning how part-time labor is managed. You should be learning how the truck deliveries get scheduled. Like you should be learning that and really paying attention because then that's how you move up and you get your skills. And today, my daughter actually manages our seven-figure BNI franchises. She's our chief operations officer and our member services director
Nice.
because she's so good at what she learned. But she went to college for 2 years and was like, I don't want to do this. My youngest is very kinesthetic, and
Yeah.
she's a tortured artist, right? And she said, "Well, you can pay the tuition, but you can't make me go to class."
Yeah.
Right? So they took their own way. And did their dad and I love their attitude? Not really, but they're making it. My youngest daughter owns a grooming salon. She does $250,000 a year and is buying a building in 2 weeks.
Hmm.
So, at 28, she's already an entrepreneur and she's making it happen, learning on the job. So I think what it really boils down to is you need to be realistic about what you love and then do the things you need to do to turn that passion into an opportunity to make a living that fuels a life, that's a life that you want to live in and a life that you want to be proud of.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no,
so
I definitely love that message. I think that it's a very key. And it's very true. Being able to find something that you love, and I have a mentor of me that normally says, eat chickens while you're hunting for elephants, right? Do smaller
yeah,
things though, right?
yes.
That are gonna lead you to what you ultimately want to do. Except don't do what I've seen in the past too, where people just get stuck and complacent, and then before you know it, time goes by super fast. Things happen, life event happens, health happens, a lot of the things happen, and
Right.
you're stuck, right? And in line with that, it's like you can get burned out, right? And then now you got to start all over again. So tell me about that, because for you, you kind of went through that too, right? It was you got burnt out, and then through that you had a breakthrough, right? You went through a lot of different
Hmm.
things to get to where you are. Tell me
Yeah.
more about that.
Yeah, so about 3.5 years ago, I came down with something that is called Guillain-Barré syndrome. It's a your immune system basically attacks your nervous system. It's a bit of a paralytic disorder.
Okay.
And so I spent 17 days with a horrible fever, lost a lot of executive function, like I couldn't think clearly, lost muscle mass. When I finally came through the worst part of the illness, I was on my way to organ failure. And just to give you an idea of the lack of strength, I couldn't crush an empty soda can with my dominant hand.
Wow.
So it was extremely debilitating. And of course, this is on the tail end of COVID. So everything was COVID or COVID long haul, right?
Correct.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, you just have COVID long haul. I'm like, never had COVID.
Yeah. Right.
So I really couldn't find anybody that would take care of me. They just kept saying, well, just adjust, just do your best to adjust to this new normal.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, I'm 57 years old at the time, and my dad's 96, which means there's a good chance I've got another 40 years to live in this body. And this is not how this body is going to live for the next 40 years. So I got to find some way to do it. So I researched and researched and researched and looked for supplements. And just really, it took about 2 years for me to really figure it all out. And today I'm really excited because I'm back to full strength.
Nice.
um, I'm 60, so I'm creaky and I have my aches and my pains, but I can walk and I can talk. And I'm traveling right now. And the day before I left, my grandson said, Bet you can't pick me up. I said, Bet you I can. And he's 105 pounds. And I picked him up and slung him over my shoulder. Right.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm only 130 pounds. So not bad for a
Right.
60-year-old Gigi. Right. So, I think one of the things that came out of that for me was that the truth of you and everything you need is actually already inside yourself. We are living in a world where when we get to Oz, when we get to the place, the Emerald City, where we think the answers lie, all we're going to do is click our heels together and say there's no place like home.
Mm.
We already have inside us everything that that we need, and we need to trust ourselves more in order to manifest the things that we want and not accept the external judgments of that. So mostly what we do is live we live our lives with internalized judgments and limitations that other people taught us.
Mm.
So we're mostly living our past stories. And so when you start looking at all of the Eastern philosophies, when you think about somebody like Joe Dispenza, who
Hmm.
teaches, become no one, nowhere, no thing, be in the field, right? Step into the field, into the quantum field where you're in the present, and then you can form the future. But all of that is happening um, when we decide that the universe is a friendly place, right? Which is Einstein told us that was the most important decision we would ever make. Do we live in a friendly or a hateful universe?
Mm.
So if you live in a friendly universe and everything, even the uncomfortable things, are always working in your favor, they're always guiding you towards a positive end, um, then you can start to think, oh, I'm in this uncomfortable situation. What can I learn from this? And then what skill sets or what knowledge do I need to engage in order to move beyond, in order to capture the lessons and move beyond towards the vision that I have for myself in the future. So, since coming back from the deathbed, if you will, um, I my BNI business is bigger and better than it's ever been. Finally recovering. We were in a tailspin because
Hmm.
COVID was so crazy. I wasn't able to really work my consulting business, but I built a fairly resilient business that had clients, long-term clients who took over the training and the teaching for me so that I could deliver what I needed to deliver. Um, they propped me up. I remember going and doing a 3-day event, and one of my clients literally stood behind me and let me lean on him while I taught because I couldn't stand on my own
Wow. Yeah.
at that time. But it's really about surrounding yourself with people that see who you can become and that buy into your vision and want to help you get there.
Yeah.
And then not letting yourself get stuck in despair because there's no reason to be despairing.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know?
a couple of things that come to mind. You talk about decision, right, and making that decision, and I came across, and I come across a lot of people that oftentimes people feel that I'm not gonna make this decision just because of the fear or the unknown or many different factors. And I tell people the easiest thing to do is to make the decision. It's either a yes or no. Am I
Hmm.
going to move forward or not? Am I going to do this or not? Am I going to go after that job that, follow that person that I want to tell them have a crush on them or whatever the case may be? That's the easy part. What is difficult in my mind and in my opinion is not making the decision, is what comes after the fact, right?
Correct.
And so, because of that, people get hung up on the idea of should I make this or not. And I was just doing an event this weekend, and I was on the front of the stage, and one of the things that I told the people at the event, I said, the choices and the decisions that we make today will determine the quality of life that we have tomorrow. Now,
For
if
sure.
you have to make a choice, whatever that might be. Now, if that choice that you made is, for whatever reason is not serving the purpose that you're hoping for, then you have the option to make a new choice and do it again.
Hmm.
Except again, people get hung up with that, right? And so I like that the fact that again, we have to just come to terms and make that decision, right? The Good.
I was going to say the other thing that's super important about that is being focused on the outcome and not the mechanism. So yes, you have
Mm,
to take steps forward, right? Like for sure you have to move forward, move forward, move forward. But sometimes we want the path to look like we want the path to look.
right.
And sometimes that's not your path. So I had a friend one time, she's like, "Oh, I need to go earn $5,000 for XYZ thing." And I said, "Well, I can just write you a check." And she was like, "No, no, no, I need to earn it." I was like, "Really? Because I literally just offered to solve your problem for you, and you can just
Yeah.
pay me back $500 a month for 10 months and not worry about needing a $5,000 chunk that you have to go stress about and whatever." And she was like, "No, no, no, I have to earn it." And that was the day that I realized, like, people are standing around you. These are all day long trying to solve your problems. And you're like, "No, no, no, don't
Mm,
help me solve
yeah.
my problem." The solutions for your problem are all around you, and the offers are being made all around you. But if you have one myopic little eye of a needle pathway that's the only way you're going to allow yourself to actually have what you want, you're cheating yourself out of a lot of really cool opportunities.
Yeah, you know what? That is huge, and it's true. You 100%, and it kind of goes back to the idea of you talked about network, right? The
Yeah.
people that are around you, and you're right. We have many opportunities, and unfortunately, people don't take those opportunities because one, they feel like, well, one, they're not this guys with this shiny object, right? You kind of have to do the uncomfortable or the hard work or whatever the case may be. Except again, the opportunity might be there. The opportunity might be, hey, you got to invest in yourself because I can help show you the path to multiply that 10 times over, right? Or
Yep.
the opportunity might be that, hey, how about you stop eating this bad food so you can get healthier? And I like a quote that Les Brown said. He said, if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. If you do what is hard, your
Hmm.
life will be easy, right? And it goes
Yes.
back to a lot of those different things that we talked about. So tell me about your consulting business. What kind of consulting do you do? You obviously work with entrepreneurs, or tell me more. Who do you work with?
Yeah.
Who's your avatar, and how do you help them?
I work with what I consider to be emerging six-figure solo entrepreneurs. So
Yeah.
it's that solo practitioner that is kind of in that messy middle where they're making some money. It's kind of inconsistent. They're making five, six, $7,000 a month on average, but they have a $20,000 month and they're like, "Yes, I
Yeah.
finally made it." And the next month is like zero.
Yeah.
And then somebody wants a charge back. So now you're in a negative month and you're on this big roller coaster. And so what I help them do is to build a consistent $250,000 revenue stream without the hassles of really complicated tech and without the deep pocket cost of paid traffic. And
Mm,
what I help them do is to really curate and cultivate the network that they already have
mm,
that can bring them those connections and those referrals that they need in order to have a predictable 15, 20, $25,000 revenue stream each and every month. Um, and so I've been doing that since 2000. 2011 when I bought the first training franchise, and then it's been about 8 years that I've had my own consultancy. So I've been doing this for good 14, 15 years, helping people do that. And it's really very gratifying. I've had people go from making $29,000 a year to well, this particular client signed a $250,000 contract that he got by referral in January. So
Hmm.
2 years ago, he was struggling to get his consulting business off the ground, had a second job, like had a job that he had to take in order to make ends meet. And now he's rocking and rolling and things are going great. I worked with a concierge physical therapist who is earning $68,000 a year because of the way he was thinking about his business. And he thought, well, I can't charge more than $80 a session because that's what insurance pays. That's an insurance copay. And I said, yeah, but you get people out of pain in 5 sessions or less because you spend the whole hour with them, right? And if I go to the corporate physical therapist, I have to go 18 times and even that doesn't get me what I want. So why don't you charge 18 times 80? Why don't you charge $1,500 and say I'll get you out of pain 5 visits or less, or we'll work together until you do, because
Hmm.
you'll never hit that $80 a session thing,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Before they either quit on themselves or get out of pain. So he did that, and then we turned his building, his
Mhm.
rent, into a profit center. And the year after he was started working with me, he went from $68,000 and barely paying all his bills to $268,000 in revenue with a property that his overhead was actually not overhead. It was actually a profit center.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, that's I like what you said here. If you focus on building meaningful relationships with the right people, everything becomes easier.
yep.
So stop chasing, start connecting. That's where the magic happens. That is very similar to something that I was talking to one of my clients this morning, and we're talking about relationships, and they're gonna be
Mhm.
they're very meaningful, and kind of like the idea of I'm sure you see this a lot with your clients too, the idea of money, the velocity of money, right?
Yes.
And oftentimes you will hear people, maybe not necessarily business owners. Sometimes you do though, and they say, "Hey, I need more money, me." Those people already have plenty of money. Why is that money going over there, right?
Right.
Because here with me, I'm chasing, right? Over there, they're connecting or they're attracting. Money goes where it's
Hmm.
need is. It doesn't go where it's needed. It goes where it's attracted to, right?
Right.
And so it all comes into play. It goes back to the idea of what you're saying. We're in this universe where there's if you stay positive or you start seeing things from a different perspective, things tend to fall into place in my opinion, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
the clients that you work with, is there a specific time frame that you kind of give them based on their needs, or you have kind of like a 2 3 month type of program?
So when I work with people, my program is designed to get you from where you are to $250,000 in revenue in 12 months or less.
Okay, cool.
When I offer my program, I will work with you for up to 2 years. So whereas I know it can be done in a year because I've seen people do it in a year. I also know that those folks have really high levels of self-efficacy and resilience. And when people get kicked off their horse, right? Or, they
Hmm.
fall off the horse. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for them to bounce back, to get their bearing and get back on there. So taking into account that life happens, especially at my age and the age, most of my current clients are midlife. So they're
Okay.
midlife, they're solo. And they've got kids that maybe are middle teens going to college, but they also have aging parents. And so there's a lot of life that needs to get navigated. So we do it in 2 years or less.
Got it. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And again, you yourself have gone through a lot of different breakthroughs, have overcome a lot of different things.
A
So
lot.
definitely, again, it goes back to the connection, getting people to trust you and believe in you. And obviously, you're a proven system of that. Uh,
Yeah.
for people to be able to connect with you, find out more about, your services or anything that you have going on, how can they find you?
So the easiest way to connect with me and the big gift. So here's my
Yes.
this is my request is connect with me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And again, it's Virginia, Muzquiz. I'm the only one out there, so you can't not find me. But connect with me on LinkedIn. If you learned anything on the podcast, do a recommendation. That's hot,
Yes.
and I'll send you my Power Partner checklist. So just then you can just message me and be like, "Hey, I left you a review. Can I get my Power Partner checklist?" So that's one way to get a hold of me and get some goods. The second thing is that you can go to masterconnectors.com/blueprint, and I will be happy to send you my business by referral blueprint, which outlines the 6 essential steps to creating a six-figure business by referral.
I love that. I love that. Virginia, after you came off of all of the things that happened with you
Yes.
after COVID, after your recovery, what changes did you make in your life? Uh, I think Tony Robbins refers to them as rituals, so daily habits. What are
Mm-hmm.
did you make any changes? And if not, what daily habits do you have to keep you up and going every day?
I did make some changes, but they were from the inside out.
Okay.
So I have definitely changed my mindset. I've definitely changed the way I relate to the world is much more from an internal place than an external place. So I'm
Mm,
responding to stimuli instead of reacting to everything that's going on. Probably one of my most favorite phrases right now is I'm in a people business. I have a lot of clients. People have feelings, and so they'll come and try to involve me in drama, and I go, and my new thing is like, I'm not available for that conversation, but if you'd like to talk solutions, I'd love to help you out.
I love it.
So even just not getting drawn in, like I understand people are having feelings, I understand people are, but if we allow them to get caught up in that, then you're in this endless rut loop of victimization. And I'm not available to be the protagonist of anyone's self-victimization.
Yeah.
So that's been a big change. Probably the biggest change for me is in a practical sense is time blocking. So there's
Mm,
a best-selling author named Nir Eyal, and he wrote a book called Indistractable. And so now instead of having a to-do list, it doesn't. I make my list of to-dos, but before I go to bed, I actually calendar them. Like I'm going to work on this thing for 1 hour these 3 days.
right.
So his definition of productivity is not getting things done. It's working on a thing at the time you promised yourself for the amount of time you said you would,
Yeah.
and tracking your progress until it's done. So that has been a game changer for me that is allowing me to get a lot more done, believe it or not, plus play, plus pleasure, plus rest,
Yeah.
plus taking care of my physical health, and all of that. So there was a time when I needed about 18 hours a day to just take care of my body.
Wow.
So I had 6 waking hours a
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And so that knowing when those 6 waking hours were going to be and exactly what I was going to do with those 12 half-hour slots that I had available is really what kept things running while I was recovering.
Yeah, I love that. Two things that you mentioned that I really love, and one is protecting your energy, protecting
Hmm.
what comes into your space, what you allowed, right? Because that is huge, especially right now with the amount of information in social media that we have,
Right.
and all the whatever news you want to call them, fake news or good news, whatever, it doesn't matter. And so I think that's
Hmm.
huge. The other one is I like the idea of working from the inside out, and it reminds me of an African proverb that says, um, uh, if uh, uh, if you end up taking care of what's internally, right? If there's no words within you, then there's nothing outside that can do you no harm, right? And so
Right.
I think that that's huge from that perspective. One last question that I have for you, for the people that are listening to us, that are watching us, that might be going through some challenging, whatever challenging that might be, what is one thing they can do to start overcoming that challenge?
Mm. Uh, Again, it's just a perspective shift, right? It's a perspective shift. At my age, here's what I know. Um, this too shall pass. The good times pass, the tough times pass. And when you are resilient and you just allow the tough times to happen and keep moving forward, not giving up on your future, right?
Mm,
Um, you'll find that these challenging times were actually equipping times. They were the times that made you strong. They shifted your perspective. They gave you new skill sets. They made you less self-reliant and more interdependent with the people around you that have been put in your place to help you. But if you reject that help, then that's part of what's holding you back. I had a girlfriend who said to me, you know, God rains his blessings down every single day. And if you would just put down that umbrella,
Yep.
if you
No.
would just put down that umbrella, right? So I think there's a lot to be said for having patience, being long suffering, and understanding that every choice that you make, if you make it towards your future and not out of today's discomfort, then you're going to stay on your path.
Yeah. 100%. I love that. Well, Virginia, thank you again. You gave us a lot of great insight, a lot of great information, or some really good golden nuggets. So thank you for sharing that with us today. Anything else you want to say before I let you go?
No, just thank you so much for having me on the show and giving me an opportunity to share the story and the wisdom that God gave me from the story, because I do believe that's part of the plan.
Yeah, 100%. Once again, thank you for being here. And for the rest of you guys, do me a favor. Please make sure that you go ahead and check out Virginia, connect with her, and also share this message because definitely somebody needs to hear it. And I'll see you guys at the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything Podcast Show. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.